Hello. We are here. Give me one moment. You finish setting things up here. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and switch it over here for you. Fantastic. And turn on the iron. Go. Alright. Well, how is everyone today? Today, by the way, we're a little bit loud. Today, by the way, we are putting together a DIY 16 music sound box. Sure, why not? Basically, it's just this Chinese manufactured board, which is fine. Didn't come with instructions or anything. It was super cheap on Amazon, so whatever, I'll take it. There's a cat. The cat is trying to be in the way. Trying very hard to be in the way. Alrighty, let's take a look at this. Moment. There we go. Alrighty. We've got our wire. Beautiful. And it looks like we're gonna need some tweezers with these, because some of these came a little bit bent. Let's see if I can get that to focus. Come on, focus. Let's try that. It almost focuses correctly. But you can see that there's some bent pins there on quite a number of these, actually. So that's unfortunate. We'll have to deal with that. So let me bend them back. It says, pull out his tweezers. Oh, come on. There we go. All right. Let's move this out of the way. Alright, so we're just going to bend a few of these back into mostly place. Oh, that one is like sideways. Huh. Trying not to snap it off. There we go. It's went back into place. Just double check that some of these other ones aren't. That one right here. Alrighty. Any other bent pins? Not yet. A couple right here. Let's see. There's a cat in the background playing with recyclable materials. Don't eat that. Cat. You can play with it, just don't eat it. Here we go. It's been back into shape. And what about this guy? Just a couple of pins, slightly bent, not too bad, all in all. Straightening them out a little bit. There we go. Perfect. The rest of these look okay. That should be fine. Alright, yeah, so it didn't come with any sort of instructions, so we're just gonna have to kind of wing it a bit. That's alright. I do have pictures of the completed board, so that does help. So, first things first. I suppose the best thing I can do is get this music chip on here, huh? This is gonna be a bit of a pain in the ass. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out where these are into. Yeah, that's gonna be a little painful, but I'll figure it out. Alright. Excuse me while I burn myself. It's fine. $7.50, right? And all I'm doing right now is just tuning the pads. Ooh, ah. I just want to make sure I get plenty of solder on this pads, because I'm basically going to be going to kind of be at like a 90 degree angle almost for this other pad. I'm kind of hooking two things together at like a 90-degree angle, so I'm going to be needing to ensure that these pads are well tinned. Go. Looks reasonable. And let me actually switch this tip out. It's far, far too small for what I'm trying to make it do. Doing so, I'm gonna have to turn that off. Let's go with a small mid-sized tip here. Let's see. Let's say this one perhaps. Let's see. Yes, that should work. Alright, now to avoid burning my fingers, grab something. This guy. This is my only pair of pliers. I'm gonna have to get some more. Well, I say more. I'm going to have to get some actual pliers at some point. That way I can not have to use these wire strippers as pliers. Because, I mean, they work, but having a dedicated pair of pliers would also, it would be better. There's some tools that I'm missing. Not a lot, but some. And I'd like to make sure that I'm not missing them. There we go. I just gotta screw this back on. Again, kinda just without burning myself would be awesome. So, hence the pliers. There we go. That's on there. And now just turn it back on. Should heat up just fine. These are easy enough to do. Just gotta be careful about burning yourself as well. Up to 500, 600, 700, and 50. Cool. Looks like it's about 750. Fantastic. Alright, now all I'm gonna do is tin these pads. Just very quickly. Nothing spectacular. I'm using a lot more solder on this particular part that I'm going to be using on any of the others. There we go. See if I can kind of get this on here. See what's going on. I kind of can, yeah, a little bit. This is why I wanted to do a big glob on all of that. That way I could put them together like that. Ouch. Ow, ow, ow. Wow. I'm trying my best here. Let me tack this on first. Okay, there we go. It's a little easier. So that's kind of... You ever heard of tack welding? That's pretty similar. Just kind of tacking them together real fast. Similar concepts. Hey, Dan says hi there. Hi, Dan. How's it going, man? It's always good to see you. And I just want to make sure everything kind of lines up before I start. Yep, cool. So all I'm doing is just tacking these together to these pads. Click on that one. I think I had enough solder on there. No, I didn't. Doesn't have to make a connection. A good connection. A little worried about flooding that little area because there's a tiny gap in there. Like connected to.
Remember all the happy times we had.
Alright. I'm going to have to... I'm going to have to put this closer to me than to you, sorry. You're not going to be able to see this very clearly, but it's going pretty good so far. Awesome. I'm glad. Saw you were in the Discord trying to figure out web development, and I'm so sorry. There we go. That's all tacked together now. Fantastic. That looks pretty decent. Just gonna fix up some of these welds real fast. Major.
Very much alike.
There we go. And there's that. So that is now connected and welded together like in the image. Should be welded together like in the image. Perfect. Yep. All right. So, looks like Q1 is our next piece here. And that goes, well, like so. Okay. I'm gonna bend these out a little bit. Not web development exactly, just trying to load a script from a script. That sounds painful. Sounds like something I would not want to do. There we go. Spread them out a little bit. I can fill these. There we go. Now that's in place. So the technique I'm doing here is basically just tacking these on. As long as it's in there, it won't move, and then you can actually start filling in these other holes with solder, an appropriate amount of solder. once that's done, you go back to your first hole that you just tacked in, and then you fill it. It helps if you tin your pads, but ultimately, I mean, that's pretty good. That's not coming out, and that's nice and welded in. Yes, it's painful. Yeah, I can imagine. Grab my flush cuts. I think a good pair of flush cuts is very important for soldering. What does any kind of work with small electronics? There we go. But especially soldering, yes. Alright, so that's tacked in. Alrighty, let's see, what's our next thing? I think we're gonna go with these just to get them in there. Or should I wait on that and do these? What are they? 270k and 620k ohm resistors. Probably those first, just to get them there. A good brush is too, yes, I agree. A good brush is very important. I do particularly enjoy my horsehair brushes, but that's just me. There we go. I can sit in peace. All right. So. Yeah, let's do the small components first. Just thinking. That means. Let's see, what do we got? You can read the resistance on here, however, it is always good to check with a multimeter. And so that I shall do. Always verify. He says untangling his cables. There we go. Holy crap. Took a moment. Replace the tips of these. Find them somewhere. Where's Maddie back? There we are. There you are. Hello there. Alright. So resistance of this one is it says bending it out of position. See if you can read that upside down. 0.61-ish mega ohms, which should be about 600,000 ohms. Plus or minus 1%. Looks like it is probably the 620k ohm here, because nothing else compares. Yeah, so 620k ohm resistor here is what we're looking at with this beast. Almost a mega ohm. It's a big ol' fucking resistor. Now obviously resistors are non-polarized, which means you can stick them in any way you so please and they will work just fine. So all I'm doing here is just popping this through the hole. And I'm gonna bend these leads in opposite directions on the underside, so that way it doesn't fall out. There we go. Just like that. Terry says, I need to stop hearing sexual innuendos and everything. Dan says, my second laptop literally can't handle a Twitch stream. Huh. So that's interesting. I would hope that it would be able to handle a Twitch stream. They're not exactly super processor intensive. Oops. There's a little bit much solder. You can see there, that one. If it were in focus, you would be able to see. But this one here is a little bit balled up. It's not really a peak, it's more of a ball. And that just means that I accidentally put too much solder on it. But I fixed it. Oop. It doesn't matter too much, it's just one of those things that, you know, it's not easy to look at is all. I fixed it though, so no worries. Alright. So that's that one. Now, it looks like there's two 270k resistors. Am I getting that right? No. Let's see. Let's stick a resistor in. Yes, exactly. Okay. Yes, there's two 270k resistors. So that's this one. There's one 62k resistor. That's this one, and there's 105k resistors, and that's these four plus one extra. 1, 2, 3, 4. Interesting. Very. Oh no, there's a fifth right there. Another 105k. Okay. So let me just double check that I am correct with all of these and their values. So there should be two 270k, that should be these two. Let us find out. And again, this will be plus or minus 1%. It's 272. The blue is plus or minus 1%. If you ever see blue versus brown resistors are plus or minus 5%. So they have an error of about 5% of their value. And the blue is plus or minus 1%. They have an error of tolerance of plus or minus 1% of their value. Again, 272. So generally blue is better, just because you get a more accurate, you will get a more accurate resistance value. So just picking one up and just saying, hey, I'm gonna use this value, it'll probably be pretty damn close to that value. However, they are much harder to read because the colors on them look very strange. By the way, I do now have a Discord if you are interested in joining. If you haven't yet, then feel free. There's a link in the top right of your screen, in the description below, or in chat. Take your pick. It's worth joining. We do have interesting conversations. Again, all I'm doing is just bending these resistors to place and sticking them into the 270k ohm slots, and then bending them out a little bit just to make sure they don't fall out. Easy enough. Here's my other 270k. And do the same thing here. Literally just bending the leads down. Going through the holes and coming over to the other side and then bending them back. There we go. So now I just kind of tack them on real fast, and then I actually give them some solder. Go, just tacked it in here. What I'm doing is just tacking it in, making sure it doesn't move, and then I give it enough solder to hold it. Usually do it to the other side, not the side you just tagged in. But I'm a moron, so hey. I just noticed that I did put some solder into this hole here by accident. So let's see if I can scoop that out. Let's see. Is that gonna affect anything? Yes, it is. That is a hole for another bit of something, just don't know what it is. To try and dig that out as best I can. I'm just gonna use some of my wick here. Fortunately, my wick does not have flux in it. That would be so much more helpful if it did. Let's see. All I'm doing is just trying to open that hole back up. That should be good, I think. Yeah. Looks like I could stick a thing through it. Well, I did, all the way up until I did that. Now suddenly it's closed again. Oh. There's just this tiny little bit of solder left. Right, come on. I think the cat wants out. Says, excuse me, even. Here we go. I think I got it out. my hair. Alright, now that little mess is dealt with, back to actually putting these things in. This one here should be a 62k ohm, and I'll just check that off screen. Yep, almost exactly 62k ohm. In fact, it's like 62.09k ohm. Again, same thing, just kind of bending these into position, tacking it on, and continuing on, actually getting it soldered in. It's tacked in, solder this one. Okay. That looks good. Just gonna go ahead and move that. There we go. Once again, clipping leads. Flush cuts are super handy. And all that's left is these, and just double checking that just off screen. Go fast. A little bit faster to do it off screen. They are the correct values. Should be 105 k ohms. Huh? $105 or 150? 115. This says 150. Okay. So there's one 150 here. This one is 149.3. But in theory, the rest of them in the package should be the same. This is also 150 k ohms. Is the board wrong? Could be. Yep, again, 150. I mean, I have 105 k ohms, I think. It's a bit of an unusual number, 105 k ohms exactly, but might have some if I need to. But it should have all the parts it needs in the package, and all of these are 150, almost on the dot, actually. It's pretty good. This one is exactly 150 k ohms. That's really good. Just double check. The board here says 150 k ohms here, and each of these says 105 k ohms. I know it's really hard to read that because of the light. The fact that I keep moving it. See if I can just kind of get it to not suck. I don't know if you can read that at all. But each of these says 105K. And I think that might just be a mistype. Let me double check the datasheet that they have. 150, so the 150K ohms goes into R3, R6 through R9. There's R3, and there's R6 through R9, yeah. So, okay, despite the fact that it says 105K ohms, these are actually 150K ohms. According to both the datasheet and the fact that they sent me a bunch of 150K ohms resistors. So, alright, well that's good. Sometimes you just gotta ignore the silk screen on the board. And so I'm just gonna put all these in here at once and then tack them all in at the same time. Let's see. Go. Okay. Gotta make the fun sound effects. It just reminded me of Bob Ross right there for a moment. Just making fun sound effects because it makes it more fun. It doesn't work if you don't make the fun sound effects. Just did really just remind me of Bob Ross for a moment there. I don't know why I went Bob Ross, but I did. It happened. And it was a good thing, probably. Alrighty. Alright, so same deal. We just tack each of those in. In fact, I'm just gonna fill each hole with solder. Yeah. For these, it doesn't matter too much. They're light enough that they're not going to fall out. And they're light enough, and the fact that I bent them means that they're not going to fall out. But with these guys in particular, the chips, it's going to be very important that I just tack one of the holes in and then start soldering the rest of them. Again, I'm putting too much solder in some places. Those places I can't really see. Trying to keep it closer to the camera so that way you can see what I'm doing. And it works out super well for you all, but it means that I can't really see what I'm doing in some cases. Make sure that I'm not missing any. This looks okay. Okay. Little tiny bit of cleanup there. Oop. Before I clip these off. Go. All the resistors are in. What we got now is diodes. Yep. Looks like a couple of diodes. Excellent. Alright, so we've got... Am I missing a diode? Nope, nope, it's over here. Buried, trapped. I've got a ceramic capacitor here. We can put this in real fast. It's fun enough. Where does this capacitor go? Oh, that's interesting. You want me to do what? Okay. Sure. This screams to me like you designed the board badly. Now, ceramic capacitors also not polarized. But yeah, interesting. It's not even on the components list. Resistors, so 4 sets of resistors, 2 diodes, 2 sets of diodes, sorry. 1 audion, guess that's the board there. 1 buzzer, or 1 set of buzzers, 1 set of switches, 3 sets of integrated circuits, 1 set of sockets for ICs, 1 set of extension sockets, 1 set of PCB boards, and 1 set of instruction manuals. 1, I didn't get instruction manuals, and 2, this ceramic capacitor isn't actually listed on this manual at all. And the way that they have you solder it on is very strange. Interesting. Okay. So basically I'm gonna solder it from this pad to this pad. Oh boy, you can't see that. I'm going to solder it from this pad, this one here, to this hole right here. So, yeah. This looked like an afterthought to me. So we're going to be very careful about this and how we accomplish it. I mean, I have ceramic capacitors in my drawers. If I fuck this up, I can fix it, but I would just rather not have to use the capacitors in my drawers. There we go. Alright, so this is one of those things that it's very important that I be able to tack this in. So I'm going to do just that. Alright. So this one's going to be a little bit challenging, but we will figure it out, he says. In this case, I want to... How do I want to do this? This will be an easier pad to solder to, so I'm going to flood this pad. And then hope I don't disconnect it on the other side. Trying not to put too much heat onto it. That way I don't have to reflow the other side. And just goes in there like that. So that's tacked in now. And now I can focus on actually getting this soldered in. There we go. And now I can take a look at my handiwork here and make sure that that's actually on there correctly. looks okay. Alright. Uh-huh. You definitely thought of this when you were putting it together, Mr. Chinese company that designed this board. Whoever designed this board. Well, at least somebody figured it out. Somebody said, hey, by the way, there should be a capacitor here. Ceramic capacitors are used quite often in sound. Ah, hey, it's Johnny the Noob 25. Hello there. How are you? I was originally surprised that there was no ceramic capacitor, but it looks like it was added on. Alright, so back to the front. Johnny the Noob says, fine, what about you? I'm doing okay. It is Solderday, so we are... get it? Saturday, Solderday. So we're doing some soldering today. Alright, so... let's see. Yes, the diodes. Diodes are important, and they are polarized, so we need to be careful about which direction they go. If you're not familiar, these will actually kind of have the little indications. You can actually see, hopefully you can see, that here there's a little line, looks a little bit wider on your end probably. There's a little line right at the bottom here, and that lines up with, there's a tiny little black spot right at the end there, and that's what that lines up with. What am I making? I am making, what is this? This is a DIY electronic 16 music sound box DIY kit module soldering practice learning kits for Arduino. That's the actual literal title on Amazon. It's a DIY kit. It's just made for soldering practice. So that's what I'm doing, soldering practice. It's always good to kind of keep your skills fresh. I do a lot of soldering anyway, but it is good to make sure that I don't lose practice. Oh hey, thank you so much for the follow, Johnny the Noob 25. I appreciate it. There we go. And once again, we're just kind of bending these leads into place so that way they don't fall out on the other side. Cool, yeah. It is interesting, it's fun, it's enjoyable. My iron, by the way, is at 750 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, that's quite hot. I do like to run my irons kind of hot. 650 to 700 is usually what people like. The reason for that is that it's less, or it's considered less damaging to the components if you have a lower temperature. However, from my experience, that seems to be a little bit too low and ends up not melting the solder all the way. And also, I have to keep the iron on the component longer, and high heat for a long period of time is what kills components, not necessarily just high heat. So, in my experience, having it at about 750 is better, simply because you keep the iron on that spot for less time than you would otherwise. It only takes a second or two with a 750, but for whatever reason when I use 650 or 700 it takes a few seconds, 3 to 5, depending on how large the pad is. Alright. So there's that. And then finally we have another diode here. Same thing. We have a interesting. We have a spot here that kind of lines up with this this white bit here, and that is the negative end. So we just put it in exactly like that. Just double check the diagram to make sure that I do have this in the right spot, because it does look a lot like, yes, it is attached there. Unfortunately, that's where the diode goes. I did not realize that. Well, that's going to be a bit of a pain to pull through, isn't it? Alright, well, we'll figure it out. Pull out the wick. And try and put some of that solder away. Yeah, I really wish this wick had flux in it. It'd be super handy. Unfortunately, it does not. Freaking ow. Ow. Okay. That was my hand, and it hurt a lot. Let's see, Johnny says, I have some 18650 batteries from an old laptop. I don't know what to do with it. Any DIY ideas? Depends on their voltage. I have not yet been able to find a use for those old laptop batteries, but I mean, I'm sure that there is a use for them. I mean, I know that there is. People have definitely found uses for them. Unfortunately, not I. I would say probably YouTube's a good place to just like look up some decent ideas. It's solid. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just very quickly melt the solder on the other side as I push it through. Like that. Ow. He says. Does work. Just gonna burn yourself on the meantime. Ow, 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 ow. As I do for these projects. Okay, that's as good as that's getting. Tack that in. Now I tack these two together. I have a diode going to a capacitor. What could possibly go wrong? Sure, that's fine. Capacitor on the negative end. It's just why? I don't understand. Oh, whatever. I don't have to understand. Probably. I don't know where that ran off to. I clipped it, and it just flew. I'm sure it will show up later. There we go. And so there's that diode in there. Finally. Let's see, I think I have all the small components in there. Yes, I do. Excellent. Now what remains is the switches. Now the switches doesn't particularly matter what direction they're facing, because the idea of these three-prong switches is that you have, I suppose it wouldn't really be a normally open, normally closed. It would be more of a, you have your power, or yeah, your signal power, whatever, coming in this middle pin, and then the switch flips that signal from going to this pin to going to this pin. So whichever way you happen to have it is the direction that the electricity is flowing. So in this case, it would be flowing from the middle pin to this pin, to the rightmost pin on your screen, and in this case, be flowing from the middle pin to the leftmost pin on your screen. So these also don't matter what direction that you put them in. Does, however, matter to me if they're level. So I will make an attempt to make them level. And so in this, I'm going to tack in the chassis. So there's 5 holes but 3 pins. The other 2 holes are for the case, this chassis here, so it doesn't move. And I'm just making sure that it's level and straight before I decide that that's good. That looks good. So now I'm going to tack in the other, the opposite end of the case, and then I'm going to solder the actual pins themselves. Go. Same thing with the others. I'm going to put all these in, and then I'm going to tack the pins in, or solder the pins in. All I'm looking to do now is just tack the cases in. Hot. Turns out heat is hot. Breaking news. That looks straight enough. I would call that straight-ish. Straight enough that I don't care. Perfect. Then we do the next one. Terry says, hopefully the batteries aren't puffy. Yeah. Yeah, like mine. My Nexus 5X battery was just chef's kiss. It was chef's kiss. Looks like I accidentally soldered that pin in, that's fine. Didn't mean to, but that's okay if I did. And here's the final switch. Oops. He says knocking it around and this wire is just getting in the way. Okay. There we go. Now actually solder these in here. More. No. Looks, yeah, looks pretty okay. All right. All right, so we got the switches in. Fantastic. Nice and tall switches. All right, now, let's see, we've got these in. Fantastic. I'm looking at the buzzer. I'm gonna say yes. Yeah, buzzer next. Same with the buzzer, it is magnetic, also polarized. And the positive end, it looks like, goes down. Down to me, up to you, I guess. Having issues. Slight issues. There we go. I bend it a little, but or bend the leads there a little. But just tack it in. There we go. There. Perfect. Should be on there. That is definitely on there. Tire board is just a little worn. It's getting a little hard to hold it. All right, there's that. Perfect. I'm gonna leave that on for the moment just to protect the center of it. Okay, and now we put these guys in, I believe. I just double check. Yeah, looks about correct. So, plan is just to kind of throw them in here. Hopefully I've bent all the pins back well enough that it doesn't matter. Okay, looks good. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna kind of hold this in place while I just tack. All I care about is just tacking this pin in. Doesn't need to be perfect, just needs to be in. That way it holds itself. Like that. And now I'm going to go over to this other opposite corner and actually solder this pin in correctly. Now I go back to the first corner that I just tacked in, solder it in, and now it's held in there. Now it won't move anywhere. And now I can just solder the rest of it in. So I'm just basically, all I did was just tack this first corner in real fast, just enough so it wouldn't move, and then I tacked the other corner in, and now I'm actually going through and soldering all the pads. Makes it a lot easier. Like, you look at it and go, oh yeah, duh, of course you do that, but it's... I had to learn. Ooh, hot. It's one of those things you like watch a YouTube video and you're like, oh yeah, of course, that makes sense, duh. But, you know, somebody had to learn that. Now, there's two main reasons that we use these chip holders. The first main reason is that we use a fair amount of heat when we solder things in, so we don't want to damage these chips. These chips are fairly sensitive to heat. It depends on the chip, but most chips are fairly sensitive to heat, and so you don't want to damage them. And so what you do is you stick these basically holders in, and these take all the heat, and all they are is just plastic and metal. And then you stick the chips into these. It raises them up just a little bit, but it's worth it to make sure you don't damage the chip. And also, if you accidentally fry your chip, you don't have to go through and unsolder this entire thing. You can just pop the chip out, which is very handy. These are also somewhat directional. I say somewhat because it doesn't matter. These are, again, just plastic and metal. It doesn't particularly matter what direction they're facing, but it's good if you can line up. There's a little divot right at the front here on this side, but not on this side. This side is completely flat. There's a tiny little divot right in the front. And if you can match that up with the board, there's a little divot right on the silk screen on the board. If you can match that up, that's fantastic. It makes it a little easier because you won't be able to really see the silk screen after you put the chip holder in. And same thing here. I'm just picking a corner, it doesn't matter what corner. A corner, and I'm just tacking it in. It's not even a good solder joint, it's just, all I did was tack it in. I will go back and fix the joint later, but I just don't want it to move. And now that is properly soldered in, and now I can go back to the first one and fix it to a proper joint. There we go. So now that's in and won't move. Dan says you ain't getting the IC from the holder. Well, it's harder. You use what you do is you use an IC extractor or an IC lifter. They're not expensive. They have, there's a couple of different kinds. There's kinds that look like this. They're very simple. You just kind of shove it in there and pop it out. There's also ones that are wired, and then there's ones that clamp. It depends on your preference, and there are different circumstances where each one will outperform the others, but generally you can get an IC from these fairly easily without bending too many pins, or without bending any, hopefully. If you're careful. You have to be a little careful, but you can do it. weird. There we go. Alright, let me just double check that that is everything. It's almost everything. All that's left is these pins here, this header. So I'm just gonna, once again, same technique, I'm gonna tack in, that it doesn't even have to be a good joint, I'm just gonna tack in one corner. I'm gonna adjust as necessary. For one extreme end of it, I suppose. I'm gonna adjust as necessary. There we go. Again, that is a terrible solder joint, but it doesn't matter because I'm not using it as a solder joint. I'm using it just to keep it still while I tack in the rest of them, while I actually solder the rest of them. And I'm just kind of verifying that it's straight. I'm going back and remelting that joint as I straighten out the this header. Alright, that looks straight. So now I'm actually going to realsy soldered in this other pin on the other end. There we go. And now I go back to the first pin that I just tacked in and I actually solder it in. Again, it's one of those things you watch it and you say, oh yeah, of course you do that, that's obvious, but someone had to learn it first. And that someone was me. And I'm telling you so that way it is easier on you. And you don't go and solder things in later and go, why is it moving around constantly? How do I stop it? Alright. And that is that. So, these two are different chips. I believe one's a memory module and one's probably the actual processor. This is the... Okay, so this is the... It's a Texas Instruments. It's sort of looks like a Texas Instruments. That may be a counterfeit chip, but it looks like a Texas Instruments. I'm just like looking at the silk screen on the chip going, that's not quite the same logo, I don't think. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think this might be a counterfeit. Either way, whatever, as long as it works, I don't care. This is just a little, like, it was like $4. Alright. This is a Texas Instruments, quote unquote. QS17F S8K. Yeah. And the text below that says CD4011BE. And so, same here, you have this little divot on this side, not on this side. You're gonna just line up this divot with this divot. And you can see you can see that you can't see the silk screen underneath here, so it's useful to have that little divot right there to tell you where to put things in. Oh, of course I fucked that up already. Did I? Yes, I did. Alright, well. I guess here's me proving Dan false. You can definitely lift these out. And I'm going to have to. Just be very careful. There we go. And it's out. Easy enough. Just try not to put them in wrong in the first place. Alright, and so this chip here, it says on the top, it says QS17F S8K, so that's the same thing. But on the bottom it says CD4066BE. There we go. All I'm gonna do is just kind of I am slightly bending a few of the pins in just to make sure that they all line up. There we go. Fantastic. Now the question is, how do you power this? The answer is, I have no fucking clue. So that's a thing. Yeah, I don't know. How do you power this? Let's see. I actually don't know. I'm not seeing anything on the data sheet here. At least it's all soldered together. That's good. But yeah, I'd like to actually power this and see if it works. That'd be super nice, wouldn't it? I have a ground pin that's labeled. Okay. Ah, 4.525 volts in J1. Is that J1 right there? Oh, motherfucker. Okay. I see. So you're supposed to power it. Yes. Okay. You're supposed to power it from here, where they don't give you... Yeah, the images online don't show that this plus and minus is populated, and they don't give you headers. But you are supposed to power it from this plus and minus, and it looks like it takes 4.525 volts to power it, which is pretty standard. Basically 5 volts. So I'm gonna grab some of my headers here. I have a lot of these. I have far too many of these. I bought a ton. And I'm just gonna grab my male headers. Gonna cut off the last two and try really hard not to have them go shooting out. Go. So sometimes I'll cut one off and it'll just go flying and I won't see it ever again. So alright, same sort of thing, just a much smaller header this time. I'm going to tack in one of these while holding the other, so that way I don't burn the shit out of myself. All I did was grab a tiny blob of solder and just put it on there real fast. And that looks fairly straight, so I'm going to solder in the other one. And then go back and solder in the first one. And that works. So a little bit of a big blob, there we go. Alright, now just give it 5 volts of power. I do not have a bench power supply. It is on my wish list. I would love one. There's a really good one on my Amazon wish list, and I would love one. I do not have one yet, so I cannot just straight up power this thing as much as I wish I could. What I can do is literally what I'm going to do is plug in one of my Arduinos, and the Arduinos do provide a 5 volt pin for power, and so I'm just going to plug it directly into that, essentially. It's a little jank, but it'll take power from USB and convert it into power for this, so and that's what I want. A bench power supply would be a far more effective solution, but I do not have one yet. One day. Alright, so this is my custom one. There we go. So this is a custom Arduino, actually. This particular Arduino, let's actually peel this off. There we go. This particular Arduino takes USB-C. This was... Oh, Dan says I'm probably going to go to sleep, so have a great stream. Fantastic. Enjoy. This Arduino here is built by a place called Smiling Duino. And I know the guy who makes these boards, and so he gave this to me as a Christmas present last year. It's the only Arduino currently in existence that uses a USB-C connector. And so I shall have to grab a USB-C cable and plug it in. First, I need a female to male. It's like two females. I need a red one and a black one because I like having consistent colors. I mean, I could use whatever female to male. It's just consistency. Consistency. Alright, there's the red and there's the black. There's 5 volts, and there's ground. Perfect. So ground goes here. 5 volts goes here. Not sure what the amperage is, but we'll find out. Let me go ahead and grab a USB-C cable real fast. I have plenty. Alrighty. Got our USB-C cable. Just plug it in real fast. Now I'm not sure how to work this. How do you work this? There's no instructions. That's not helpful. It's 5 volt and ground, right? Yep. Yep. Plus and minus, okay. And the datasheet does say 4.525 volts, so that's fine. Goes in through the diode to... okay. That looks like it should be fine. I wonder if I have to put the jumpers together somehow. Let's see. There's probably people who have actually like done reviews. Let's see how this actually works. Oh, you need a 12-volt power source? Huh? Why does it say 5 volts then? What? I'm so confused. Oh, there's a 5-pin serial port. Okay, so this 5-pin header here is actually a serial port. That's cool. And you can program it. Huh. So you need to actually plug in 12 volts, not 5 volts. Huh. Okay, it says 5 volts on the schematic. That's odd. Why would it say 5 volts on the schematic? I'm so confused. Let me just double check that. Am I going crazy or does it actually say 5 volts? Okay, so J1 says 4.525 volts. Huh. Okay. Well, I'm so confused. What? The schematic, it said, I mean, but, what? Why does it say 4.5 to 5 volts then? I'm so confused. Apparently there's a video here. Apparently the video is purple. Why is the video purple? The thumbnails are... Okay, whatever. Yeah, it looks like... Okay, so these people have hooked it up to a power supply. In the jumper pins that I... Yeah, okay. Or in these pins here. So I was correct there. It looks like that is supposed to be the pins. I ran mine on 3 AAA batteries in series, or about 5 volts. Huh? So why is that person saying 12? I'm gonna say it's 5, because the schematic says 5. That would make sense, wouldn't it? Alright. The hardest part of any of this is just like trying to figure out how in the world it's supposed to function when it's done to make sure that it actually works. In theory, this buzzer should be giving me some music. Okay, let's see. It says mine didn't come with any instructions. Does anyone have a link? Don't have a link. If you Google the part, you can go to various images using a brown subboard. Okay. After installing all of the green board components, you need to solder the subboard to the green board. Yeah, the black dot on the subboard faces toward the switches. Align the subboard solder pads with the green board pad and solder two together with the subboard perpendicular to the green board. Yeah, I got that from the images. Then you'll notice 2 little holes at the top of the subboard on the back side. Okay. You need to run a jumper wire from the subboard hole to the hole directly below it on the green board. It will not work without these 2 jumpers. What? What? Hang on. Okay, so I see the 2 holes that they're talking about on the green board here, right? Okay. You will notice 2 little holes at the top of the subboard on the backside. These 2. So there's 2 holes right here. You need to run a jumper wire from the subboard hole to the hole directly below it. So this hole goes to this hole, and this hole goes to this hole. Why is there not what? Why would you not? Okay. So the rest of the assembly is the illustrations as shown on the Amazon page for placement. Yeah. Be sure to observe the ICs are the right number and not. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, that's fine. One I see is a 4066 and the other next to the switches is the 4011. Also observe D1, D2, D3. Black white bands are towards the subboard. Oh, yeah. The sounder plus mark should be next to D1. Yeah, I got that. Flat side of the transistor Q1 should face away. Yeah. Battery plus and minus hooks up by the flat side of the transistor. Yes. I use 3 AAA batteries in series, which is a 5 volt. Oh. Oh! I use 3 AAA batteries in series. A 5 volt supply will work. Okay. I wouldn't go much higher than 5 volts. I don't think the subboard will take it. Don't use too much heat when soldering so as to damage the components. Yeah. Solder bridges can also be a problem when soldering the switches. It's a neat little circuit when you get it done. Good luck. Okay. So apparently, I'm going to have to solder these holes together somehow. Got it. Alright. So here's what you use these leads for. All these leads that you chopped off, don't toss them, because this is what we're going to use them for. This is literally, I mean, I'm going to take one lead and I'm going to shove it through the hole. I'm going to bend it like 90 degrees and shove it through the other hole. Like so. This is essentially what I'm doing. Is that little, that's just a lead from one of the components that I clipped. And so I'm going to kind of jankily, yeah, get that soldered together, I guess. Doesn't particularly matter which side I solder it on, just that I solder it on. Alright, bring this back up to 750. My solder out. And I probably should have tinned this pad, I didn't really think about it. That's okay. Just very lightly tinning that pad over there so that way I can tack it on. And so that's soldered in, and then I'm going to tack that on there. Okay. And so I do the same thing, and I clip the leads from the leads. If that makes sense. I'm sure it doesn't. That's okay. And honestly, that does look... he says. No. There we go. That's a much nicer. I was like, oh, that looks soldered correctly. No, that doesn't look soldered correctly at all. There we go. Alright, and so all I have is just this, like, lead, a clipped lead that comes from this pad and hooks into that pad. I'm gonna do the same thing with this other one over here. You can kind of barely see. Interesting. Sorry, I know this is off camera, but I'm trying to like trying to bend tiny pieces of metal. So while I do want you to see everything, there comes a point at which I have to kind of just say I need to see stuff too. And so there's a tiny little bit of solder there, and I'm just going to use that just to tack that on. Or attempt to. I attempted to. It didn't work. Oh, maybe it did actually. Seems like it might have. It's pretty solidly in there. Right, and same here. I'm gonna have to kind of see what I'm doing because this is a tiny, tiny piece. If I had known that I had to do this beforehand, I would have done so before I soldered in the buzzer. But here we are. Good to know, though. All right. Again, kind of clipping the leads from the leads. And I forget, this is magnetic. Boop. Because that's how these buzzers work. There we go. And that should be on there now. So hopefully, I can plug it in and get some sound. Let's find out. Positive and away. Negative. Ah. Yep. Yep, the chip makes noise. The chip definitely makes noise. Why is it screaming? Why is it screaming? It's like it's in pain. Okay. I can't tell if these positions are on or off. Apparently, if they're all off, it's machine gun sounds, or machine guns. Or if it's all on, it's passing by race car sounds. Which one do you think that is? Oh. Okay. Well, that's awful. That's awful. That is atrocious. Did I fuck up the ceramic capacitor? Let's see. Yeah, that is correctly soldered. At least according to the images. The buzzer here looks like it's correctly soldered, according to the images. Right? Let me just double check. I have my ceramic capacitor attached to this pad. Yes. Okay, on this pad and connected to this hole. Huh. Interesting. That looks like a different board design than mine is. That is a different board design. Is it? That is so strange. Anyone else have a photo on the other underside of it? That yes. Okay. Oh. Oh, okay. That's fine. It's already bridged. It seems. Interesting. I'm trying to like look at the images of this particular capacitor just to make sure I have it right, because I know I have the others right. It's so odd. It does certainly look like. Huh. Okay, it's not this one, I think. I'm seeing the world's tiniest capacitor symbol right there, and it's actually connected to this hole here and not this one. So I'm going to desolder that one. And instead, solder it to this hole. So, that may take care of the screaming. Why is it screaming? I don't know. But it does certainly look like that's what I'm supposed to do, so I shall do that. Alright. That's soldered in. Yep, well enough. Going to try to do this without breaking it. I've bent these leads quite a lot, and now I'm a little bit afraid that I'm going to break it if I keep going. There we go. Alright, let's see if we can stop that screaming. Nope, it's still fucking screaming, isn't it? God damn it. Alright. That is terrible. Why is it so bad? Well, it is soldered into where it's supposed to be now. Yeah, so at least you can't blame me for fucking up the schematic. This is now placed where it's supposed to be. I'm just thinking, like, why would this be so bad? I got no answers on that. Oh, some people got an instruction manual with theirs. That's awesome. There's apparently a QR code that you can scan to get online instructions. That would be super handy, wouldn't it? Well. Just trying to find that capacitor, but I think I have soldered it together correctly. But it does scream. It screams. It screams. I believe the machine gun sounds are. I think this is all off. Oh, no, maybe not. I think these are all on. The up position is all on. And so this is a passing by race car sound here. If you'd like to hear what a race car sounds like when it passes by. Yeah, that's a pretty good representation. Yep, definitely not annoying at all. There's your bass sound. Oh wait, no, that's fire engine. I think that's fire engine. So that might be machine guns. Yeah, this is fucking awful. That's okay. So this is probably machine guns, and then this is fire engine. This is ambulance. All right. Here's police siren. Here's a cricket. Here's alarm song. Why does it sound good when it goes up to the top? Like, that's not bad, all the way up until it gets to, like, the bottom of the notes. Alright, here's an electronic signal. You can kinda hear it. God, this is annoying, I'm so sorry. Here's a bird call. Here's a chirping. That's awesome. Here's a whistle. Oh my god. Telegram sound. Again, that's not terrible. Birds singing. Okay. Heavy machine gun sound. That's apparently what a heavy machine gun sounds like. Here's a hooter voice. What the fuck is a hooter voice? That's a hooter voice. Here's your bass sound. Oh my god. And here's your passing by race car sound. Well, that's all awful. I'm sorry that I had to... I'm sorry that you experienced that ear rape. Let's put this away and forget it ever existed. Oh, my ears. Oh god, that hurt me. Oh god, I keep hearing ringing in my ears now. Fuck, that was loud. At least your volume was normalized. Ow. All I can hear is ringing. Yeah, all I can hear is ringing. Okay, well... I'm so sorry about that. Here, have some good music. Well, and next week we're going to be putting together an FM radio. That'll be fun and interesting, and hopefully not ear rapey. So, yeah, don't have too much fun. I will actually plug. Yes, I have the ability to. I shall plug the FM radio into the computer here, so that way you can actually hear for yourself exactly what it sounds like without having to use earbuds or anything, because it has a 3.5mm jack, and I have a 3.5mm input and a cable. So I shall plug it into the computer and you shall hear it for yourself next week. In the meantime, don't have too much fun. And sorry about the ear rape, and I will see you all on next week's stream, I think. Yes. See you all on next weekend's stream. And, oh, I will probably end up seeing you all tonight. Either tonight or tomorrow to finish up Angel's PC build. Her first ever PC build. That'll be quite exciting. So, see you all later. Don't have too much fun. Bye!